Season 3 of Love Transform Evolve is brought to you by Dreams Financial. Alex and Steph have been my financial advisors for years, and that's no coincidence. They don't just see me as a client, but rather as a partner in building and protecting my wealth. Their personalized approach and innovative solutions have made financial planning a breeze. And I love the fact that they are in it with me, explaining everything as we go, and I always know where my money is going and why. And when it comes to the death of a loved one, Alex and Steph are experts at providing compassionate guidance, offering clarity and direction. For more information, you can visit their website at dreamsfinancial.ca. When I was 17 years old, I remember sitting in a college class, my economics class, and the teacher was talking about this inverted population pyramid. And thinking about what would our life look like when that pyramid started to get really heavy. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, basically the inverted population pyramid refers to the fact that in the 50s, when there was this huge incentive for people to procreate and make these big families, what it did was it caused the traditional population pyramid, which was structured so that the younger generation was bigger at the bottom, supporting and creating and generating economic stability to support the aging population, who is much smaller at the top, was going to become inverted, because now the families were going to have 5-6 children, and the younger population was not going to be able to sustain this older population going at the top. And here we are, 2025, and we are feeling those effects of the inverted pyramid. The boomers didn't have as many children as their parents had. They had less and less, and they took their money much farther, and they took their health much further. And there's been a lot of advancements in technology that have allowed them to enjoy their wealth. Well, we need to think about financially how we are going to live and how we are going to support ourselves while we're paying for the taxes to help keep our society afloat. And financial literacy is not something that we touch on in schools, though I wish we could. It's something that's important in our lives, and it's important in caregiving, and it's something that we need to take our heads out of the sand to actually look at and understand for ourselves, to give ourselves the best chance of getting older. The majority of conversations around caregiving focus on the person we care for's medical needs. But there's a huge part to caregiving that doesn't get enough attention, and that's money. The financial situation for both the caree and the caregiver play a huge role in this dynamic. And again, not just covering the costs that come along with any particular physical or cognitive treatment, for example, but also helping cover general expenses and ongoing payments, cost of living, and estate planning. Think for a moment of a husband who invests in stocks himself, like a day trader, and suddenly he falls ill and needs someone to step in and make sure his deals aren't going sour. Or a daughter who has to take a leave of absence from work to actively care for her mom, but also has a teenager who does competitive dance that costs thousands of dollars a year. Financial planning is often an emotional, difficult thing to discuss, but it doesn't have to be. And hopefully, the conversation today will change that, because with me are Alex and Steph from Dreams Financial. Not only are they financial advisors extraordinaire, the sponsors of this podcast, but they are a dynamic team who make money planning accessible, strategic, and dare I say, fun. Welcome to Love Transform Evolve, Alex and Steph.
Thank you, Cyn.
Thank you for having us, Cyn. Excited to be here.
So excited to have you here. And I actually want to start with how we met, because it was at a time in my life when I had decided to put my big girl pants on and break up with my dad, who had been doing my taxes for all my life and managing and planning my investments my whole life. And then I decided, out of the pandemic, I needed to just move away and manage my money myself. And so I went on this process of looking for and interviewing financial advisors. And it was really important for me to find someone who worked with me. Every experience I had had up until that point was kind of this like older man talking down to me about money. And I really wanted to find kind of a partner, if you would. And I met the two of you. And before we actually decided to engage in a relationship, there was this kind of interview process where I interviewed you, you interviewed me, And like I said, I wanted a partner and somebody to work with me, but I'm curious for you, what is the interview process like when you're looking for clients? What is important for you, not only on their profile, but also what their needs are? And because there's two of you, I'll just call out
Yeah,
one of
that's a
you
great
each.
question. I'm gonna let Steph handle the first one.
Yeah, so as financial, I mean, when we first met on the financial side, I do remember that first meeting. Was it around COVID? Because I remember taking it
It
from
was
my
a year
bed.
out of COVID because I turned 40 in COVID. And it
Okay.
was one of those like, okay, I'm 40, I got to be a big girl now.
Yeah, I just remember taking it from my bed, and we had already had a personal relationship, you and I, Sin, had nothing to do with finances. And when you came in with Alex, I was like, oh, this is like serious, Sin. And the way you questioned him, it was like literally like an interview. And I remember Alex and I got off after, and I'm like, I swear she's not like that all the time, but that's okay. And then you guys warmed up, and it's like pure love now. So it's great. But for us, how we determine if we want a client or not, it's really an energetic fit. I don't know how else to say this. You can have all the money in the world, you can have millions of dollars, but if you are not a good human being, or if you aren't nice as a person, or if you're entitled and you think we're working for you and you're talking down at us, we will happily refuse you. And so when we get off this interview, this discovery call with a client, our first question or discussion is, how did that feel? Was it light or was it heavy? Was it fun or was it not? Yesterday, we had three clients back to back, and they all felt so easy, so light, and so good. And those are the types of days that we want to go into. And we want to know that when we're having this long-term relationship with you, we want to come into the meetings. We want to see Cynthia, and we don't want to be like, oh, it's Sin. We want to be like, oh my gosh, it's Sin. Like, let's have a meeting. So that's how I personally determine.
Between the two of you, you have this really special, unique setup that I think defies a lot of traditional ways that we think about money and money management. And, what that is, Steph, first of all, the name of your company is Dreams Financial, which I think is beautiful. And Steph, you're, in my experience of it, the dreamer, right? You're the one who works with clients to understand who they are and what they're looking to accomplish. And Alex, you're the how are we going to make this happen person, right? You look at the money, you look at it, and it's kind of this forward-thinking partnership on, how do we make this work? I think also, and I want to get your take on this, there's this misconception that financial advisors are only for the wealthy, only for people with money. What do you think people get wrong when they think about wealth management, financial advising, in general?
Yeah. So when it comes to financial advisors, you have all different types of financial advisors. You have like we are corporate financial advisors, so we deal a lot on the corporation side, but we also deal with employees and different kinds of people that want to accomplish different goals. So it really you have different kinds of financial advisors for different people. There's a colleague of ours who's a financial advisor just for nurses, and that's all he does. We have financial advisors that are just for people that are in agriculture and farming, right? Because different laws. But I think that at the end of the day, you could do it yourself. That's anything in life you could do yourself, or just like you hold people's hands and go through different kinds of emotions with them on a day-to-day basis. They could go through these emotions alone. So the question goes like, why would they need you? Why can't they do it themselves? They could. Everyone, you could do anything yourself, almost. I mean, even today, you could have a baby alone, right? Like, I don't know if you want to do it with anyone, but if you do, pick someone that you get along with, that you could, that they could understand you, you could understand them, same lingo, same language,
Wait, are you
and
talking
that you
about
get along
babies or
with.
are you talking about money? Because that's a
You
whole
see?
other podcast.
But you see, it doesn't make a difference. I
Right,
think it's anything. It
right.
could be babies, it could be money, it could be business partners, it could be whatever. Schools for your kids, whatever you're gonna want to go and decide to do with someone else. I mean, make sure it's a fit.
Right.
So yes, I don't know if we're a fit for everybody. That's for sure. But I also don't just want anybody. I want someone who resembles me. I want someone who, has the same values as us. So, I mean, that's a whole different story, but we could get into that, further down the road.
Yeah. Steph?
Yeah, I would actually twist it to the other side, is what we've heard, is that some wealthy people think they don't need financial advisors because they have the wealth. Oh, mom and dad have money, so they're just going to pass it on to me. I don't really need to take care of myself. So it's actually the opposite end. Whereas the middle class are like, I need to learn how to manage my money or how to make money or to protect my money because I was never taught this in school and my parents never gave me money. So it's actually, your question was, people think it's for the wealthy. I would actually argue that and say some wealthy people think they don't need it because they're wealthy. So it's different perspectives. And then I would just add that when we first started, it was actually a lot of the mom groups that we were helping out. So all these moms, their first thing is what? Who do they want to cover or protect? It's their family and their kids. And so the RESP, the education fund, is what all the moms and the families wanted to do. And they just had no clue. And all they needed was a little bit of guidance. And what we created for them was an entire strategy, a 4-step program, investment 101, insurance 101, RESP 101. And they could take that on their own time. And then they would get at least the basis for them. And whatever actions they decided to take, it was up to them. But I think everyone could benefit from advice on the financial side at any level.
Oh, I think that is so true. And, in this third season of Love, Transform, Evolve, our first season was focused on love and focused on the story of, why do we get into caregiving? And it focused a lot on my story. In the second season, we talked about transformation and transforming through the struggles and the challenges of going through caring for someone who has some kind of disability or illness or whatnot. And this third season is really focused on evolution. How can we be evolved in these roles? How can we be well in ourselves, just in overall society? And, I think financial wellness and financial health is a part of that. I have one question about financial health. What is something that somebody needs to know about money management in the short term versus money management in the long term? Like, how would you guide them on how, they look at their money short versus long term?
Steph?
Short term, long term. I mean, the risk question is going to go with Alex. That's like on the financial side. I'll let him answer that. But I'm just trying to think short term, long term. Can you clarify that question? Could you just ask it again?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people, and I can speak from how I entered into this space, it was when you asked me the question, Steph, what do you want to do with your money? All I could see was the money that I had right now. It was very difficult for me to understand how I was going to get from point A to point B. And so it was like, I felt almost like I either had to hoard or I had to put all of my money away for retirement. And there wasn't this kind of in between
Strategy.
of, how I could make my money work for me. So I think that there's this kind of all or nothing, short term versus long term, that people might have. So, what do you say about that?
Okay. So on my side of the business and like what I enjoy doing is just exactly that, asking like, what is it for? So money aside, let's just put that whole conversation aside. What is it that drives you in this lifetime? What is it that you want to do and achieve? Obviously, money is a tool in order to get there. Okay. So that's Alex's side of things. But I just want to sit down with you and say, okay, well, in a year from now, is there a trip that you want to take with Addie? Is there a place that you really want to travel to? What's your bucket list item? We had clients that are probably 5 to 7 years away from retirement. And we did this whole one sheet retirement questionnaire with them. And they had never had that conversation together. But we sent it to them. They filled it out separately. Then they came back together to talk about it.
They
And
went on a
they
date.
had,
They went on
they,
a date to do it.
they went on a date to do this whole like retirement plan with this one sheet. And they discovered things about themselves that they didn't even know as a couple. So My point is, it's just about asking the right questions, extracting your own goals and dreams. And I think we just don't have the time to do that ourselves. I guess like what I would say is like finding out what your goals and your dreams are. That's already step one that people haven't really taken the time to do. And then the purpose of the money, of why you're saving, why you have a plan in place. It's really to help these things happen in your lifetime.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty awesome.
I think that's really great. And I think, one of the ways or one of the barriers to entry about thinking about that is that a lot of the times when you think about financial planning, you're just thinking about planning for the worst, planning for when you're older, planning for like going into an old folks home, planning for or illness or what, and it becomes this really anxiety inducing thing. And so reframing how we think about using money over the course of the long term, that it's a both and versus an either or. Like you get to both live your dreams now and through the process, and you get to also be okay in retirement, right?
Yeah.
It's that shift in perspective.
Totally.
So listen, like I was just saying, there are going to be times in our life where there is crisis. There are things that happen, and you've lived this with me, when, shit hits the fan and we have to go into go mode. And going into go mode, it's like all of the thinking comes out of it. And, especially in caregiving, you're just completely reactive. And one of the things you do, similarly to like what you just said, advising your clients on planning out their financial dreams, their retirement dreams, you also help them to plan for potentially the worst. And you've created this thing called the Red Binder. Tell us a little bit about what the Red Binder is, how people can contribute to it, where they should keep it.
It's really not a unique concept. It's basically a death binder. It's basically planning for, I would say, your own death. It sounds so morbid, but I think these are conversations. Oh,
Yeah, no, that's great. No, I want to take a moment. Yeah, the word death, even though I've been through it twice in my life with both of my parents and thinking about our own, it's this like, I can feel myself even just taking this really deep breath in of like, oh gosh, I don't even want to think about it. So yeah, sorry, continue. I just
yeah.
was having this
Yeah. I mean,
reaction.
like, and that's normal. And sometimes we forget. And so, like, I feel like in a safe place right now because I'm not getting a direct reaction to it. So I can be candid with you. But the fact is that we all have to plan out our own wishes and desires for when we go. And unfortunately, I don't know if I'm going to go tomorrow or if I'm going to go in 50 years from now. I have no clue. But what I can do is at least write out or at least plan and organize the things that the next generation for Nova or Jackson or my husband, the people that I'm leaving behind, that they're not left in this crazy mess. Like if I'm gone, I'm hoping that it might be a little sad for them at the time, like that they're already dealing with a lot. I don't want them to have to deal with, well, where were her buildings? What was her businesses like? Where's her bank accounts? What else did she have in place? Did she have any life insurances? Where do I claim that? So these are all the things that I'm personally working on. I called it the red binder because red reminded me of blood and death. So it's like a little morbid, but that's okay. But then the last few pages, you're going to see that, yes, there's like the first few, it's what's your name, your contact information, your doctors, your medicals, where are all your files and folders, what banks are you with, all the dry stuff. But it's really the last few pages that I really took the time with of what I would want to know about my parents. So I want to know, what kind of funeral do you want to have? Like I spoke to my mom about this, and she doesn't want everybody wearing black and like getting all sad. Like she wants like people in color. That's who mom is. And so these are the conversations that I think are super important and fun to have if you allow that space and that openness to have this conversation while you're still alive. And I think that's my whole concept, is normalizing the death conversation. I've always been interested in it ever since university. I've wanted to host living funerals. So why wait until somebody dies to appreciate them? Why can't you have a celebration of life while they're sick and alive and you're able to tell them straight, I appreciate this about you, and I want you to know this before you go. But yeah, that's a whole other topic.
That's a really great thing. And I think hearing you speak about this, and knowing from my own personal experience, what it sounds like and what I truly believe as well is that when you plan for these things in your life, you're actually giving a gift to your caregiver. You're giving a gift to the people who are left behind, who don't have to make those decisions on your behalf. Like you just said, you didn't know your mom wanted to have all these colors at her funeral, right? So it takes away a lot of that pressure at a critical time in a moment when, you're really operating at an emotional deficit. Alex, I want to ask you, being that you have seen different clients going through this in the past, can you, without divulging any name or personal information, remember a time or a situation that was really difficult because somebody didn't have their stuff in order, or, like either a will or a power of attorney or accounts? Like, what is that? How painful is that? Because it's the pain of, like, you got to choose almost your pain, right? The pain of dealing with it after, or the discomfort of maybe having those difficult conversations ahead of time.
There's really a lot of different cases I could think about, and not just like one or two, but like 80 or 100 cases I could think about. So I might try to sort through my brain which ones I want to speak about, because some are really terrible and some are easier to speak about. Um, I mean, not having a will in place, I'm not a notary, so I'm not one to write wills for clients. We do refer to our notary, but not having a will in place is it's detrimental to everyone around you. It doesn't allow for any of your wishes to come true once you're no longer here. It doesn't allow for your kids to be well taken care of either, if you have young kids. It doesn't allow for your spouse to get clarity on all your affairs. So there's a lot of really, really horrible things that happen when you pass away. And then there's the financial burden, obviously, of everything you're leaving behind. So for some people that are in business, or for some people that, have young kids, in my mind, if you have a kid under 18 years old, the government should have made it mandatory to have a will. It's not, obviously, but it should be, because not having that triggers so many different implications for your kids. Who's going to take care of them? When are they going to get your assets and your money? Where do I even, do you know, Sin, that there's like, I believe the percentage is 38% of life insurance policies are not claimed because people don't know where to look
Wow.
in the States. Over here, I mean, we have we have a lot less companies, but we still have a lot of life insurance companies. And so fine, you could go over a 2 week span and call them all and try and figure it out. But if you're not the beneficiary, they won't tell you. They won't even give you any information, right? So you have to pray that you were the beneficiary. And you have to pray to remember that your dad had it going out. So fine, you'll go look at transactions. But what if the premium was paid off 20, 40 years ago? Because we could pay off life insurance
And
premiums
they were
over
never
10 years
told,
or 20 years.
or they were never told that there was a life insurance in the family. How would
No,
you
they were
know?
never told, right? So you're gonna go through bank statements over 50 years. Like, it just becomes absurd when you don't have a will and you don't have a mandate in place as well. I mean, we could speak about trust at another pace, another time, but there's so many different things in financial planning that need to be taken care of. So fine, you don't want to have the conversation because you're scared it's gonna happen to you. I mean, that's very old school thinking. Nowadays, it's more like I need to educate myself on financial literacy in order for my family to be okay if I'm not here. And it's not just about saying, okay, I'm dead, so it's their problem.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
mean, when you're alive, you're working for them. So what? Now that you're dead, it's now their problem? It doesn't
Right.
make any sense.
Right.
We have to really understand where does the problem lie? Okay, my parents didn't have it, so I don't need it. That doesn't work anymore. I truly believe that this new generation, this young generation, yes, fine, there might be a lot of different issues, but this young generation takes care of their shit. I'm sorry for the language. Like, they really do. They take care of their things. They put things in place. They're saving early. They're investing properly. They're having these tough conversations with their parents as opposed to their parents having it with them, right? So it's really cool to see this young generation evolve and really want to take care of their finances. So for that piece, I'm proud of them. I mean, our school system, we could get into that also about how they should maybe give one or two classes on budgeting, but there's there's just so much that you need to take care of that you don't even know.
I think that's really first of all hopeful about the new generation. And I think,
Yeah,
a lot of people are afraid to talk about these things and death things because or things around death because they might feel that they're like calling it on or willing it in or bringing it in, right? And I would also imagine that your role as financial advisors is to help people have those difficult conversations upwards, laterally, with themselves, to kind of hold their hand through that, yeah, in that process.
yeah, because you could go online, you could go and buy a life insurance policy online. That happens. Well, are you doing the right thing? I mean, most likely not, right? Because you don't know what product you're getting, you don't know how much coverage you actually need. There's a lot of different things that go into it, but nowadays everyone wants things quick and easy and fast. But you have to put time and work into your own personal budget in order to understand how much you could invest, how much you could save, how much you could go away on a trip for every year, how much to dedicate towards a car and why should I get this car and how much payments could I make towards this car. So there's a lot that goes into it. You could do it all yourself, but why go through it alone?
Right.
Why go through anything alone? It's just so lonely.
Amen to that. You know what? I feel the same way about caregiving. I feel the same way about like being through these processes and going through the human experience just in general. When you know that there are resources out there to support you, to help you, in areas that you're not as comfortable with, like, why wouldn't we just choose to do this together? Right.
Exactly.
So let's say someone's listening to this podcast right now and they're like, okay, you know what? They've convinced me I should, deal with a financial advisor. Is there a point in someone's life where it's too late to have these conversations?
Definitely. There's when you're dead.
Oh, okay. I was going to say I got a definitely from Alex and a no from Steph, but okay, when you're dead, fair enough.
We were saying the same thing in a different way.
Exactly.
No, at any moment, if you're making any sort of income, you should be taking care of that income. It's a lot of people. If you ask them, like, how much money do you make? Most of the time, they'll give you a ballpark. Certain people are very precise. They know exactly how much they make. You ask them what comes in every 2 weeks, they'll tell you X amount, and they know it's going to be X amount. As soon as you flip the question and you ask, well, how much do you spend a month? 99% of people have no idea. So as soon as you make money, that's the time to start. As soon as you make any money in your life, understand where that money goes.
Right.
If you don't understand where that money goes, it's going to go to somebody else's pocket.
Yeah. I also wanted to add to this misconception of answering the question of, is it ever too late or is there a bad time? I think when we first started, we thought that older people automatically had their stuff figured out. We were like, oh my gosh, for sure they had like a good job, good money, good income, good business. Like for sure there's an advisor in their lives. For sure everything's good. And then once we made the connection, and again, we got behind the scenes, we're like, oh, whoa, nothing is in place. Let's help this person out. And so I think even as financial advisors starting out thinking that people who are older, making money, that they're good, it's not true. It's not true at all.
I think about just children taking care of their aging parents. I think that's also a foregone conclusion that, oh, they'll have everything together. And that's when, should a crisis arise or just even the natural aging process happens and we get, towards the end of the life, that's where it's this big shock, like, oh, our parents are humans too. They too did not receive the education around financial literacy. They too were just kind of winging it. But because there's this weird relationship to money and because we don't want to talk about
lifespans. And, you know, let's face it, money is also a vice for a lot of people. We're numbing ourselves with those, you know, that budget exercise was really hard for me. You know, it's like, oh, but I like to spend all this money on going out for dinners but yeah, maybe I shouldn't be spending that much on, you know, all of that kind of stuff. These are difficult conversations to have. So that kind of, you know, that assumption that people have their stuff together is, you know, adds to the shock when you are thrown into kind of a caregiver role.
Yeah, I agree. But anything that is difficult is worthwhile.
Amen to that. I love that. Let's just end the whole podcast here. That's what caregiving is the human experience. If it's not difficult, it's not worthwhile. Alex and Steph, I really appreciate you being here with me. This has been such a great conversation. Alex and Steph are financial planners, the co-founders of Dreams Financial, where they head a team of professionals dedicated to helping you meet your financial goals. You can book a meeting with them to get a tailored plan to meet your needs at dreamsfinancial.ca. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Sim.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you, and we are very proud of you as well.
Thank you.
If you like what you heard today, be sure to rate, follow, or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Cynthia Iorio. Until next time.